Hey guys, what's going on today? It is Jeff here with Automotive Enthusiast Society, and today we're going to be talking about something that if you're anything like me, you might not know very much about. Now, this was sort of an interesting video, but we're going to be talking about the Vision GT vehicles, or Vision series, it depends on how you call it, and it's super interesting, so let's get into it. Starting off, basically the Vision GT vehicles was a series of vehicles that were developed for fun. Now, if you're like me, you're familiar with the vehicles, you've seen them, they get unveiled at like all the crazy car events that you see show up, but you actually don't know too much about the vehicles. Like, who hasn't seen all the crazy concepts, right? They're like the vehicles of the future, essentially. But what we have to do is we have to get started with where they came from. So let me explain to you first what the Vision vehicles are, and then we'll go through all the different vehicles and sort of break them down and talk about each and every vehicle. Let's get into it. So starting with that, they all came from the game Gran Turismo 6. Now, you might be thinking, well, wait a minute, these are real vehicles, well, why are you talking about a video game? Well, when Gran Turismo 6 was coming out, they actually reached out to car manufacturers and they said, hey, get your graphic design guys, we're going to pay them money to come up with the craziest vehicle designs that they can, and then we'll put them in the game for people to race. So that's how it started, right? So, of course, all these vehicle designers and everything go, oh my goodness, I can design whatever I want, it's gonna be the craziest thing ever. Boom, it happens. So, there's like something like 28 vehicles that have come out since then in total for looking at the Vision GT series and all that, or VGT vehicles, whatever you want to call them. But there's been a lot of them that have actually come out. And then what is interesting about them is the fact that some of the manufacturers, like I said, this was strictly just to design a virtual car and we'll put it in the game. It turned into the manufacturers going, you know what, we like that car so much, we're actually going to build it. So out of the 28, 30-something Vision GT vehicles that exist, a few of them have actually been built, and quite a few of them actually, I should say. So it's really crazy. Those are, of course, the ones that you've seen when they're getting unveiled at all the different shows. I think some of them have even been at SEMA, and then, of course, like some of the other things like the crazy European car shows where they unveil all of their concept cars. So it's a super interesting series, and so let's sort of dive into it and let's talk about more of what makes the Vision GT vehicles so cool. What is super exciting to me about these vehicles is the fact that they were literally just designed by the artists with nobody ever thinking that somebody could be building it. And the manufacturers saw these vehicles, got so excited that they actually built these vehicles. Like, who knows how much they actually spent on designing these vehicles, because these are absolutely insane. Like, if you've seen these vehicles, you know that there must be like millions of dollars just to develop this concept and kind of parade it around and show people the future. Now, in terms of showing people the future, that being said, these Vision GT vehicles actually inspired BMW and Rolls-Royce to develop their own related vehicles in the spirit of the Vision GT class. So it's actually called the Next 100. So I'm sure you've seen the BMW and the Rolls-Royce Next 100, Vision Next 100. And those vehicles are because the way BMW and Rolls-Royce see that is it's the next 100 years, that's what their cars are going to be looking like. So that's the incredibly exciting part about this, is it sort of inspired a trend to go back to that sort of coach building custom stage where you get these absolutely crazy vehicles that are showing the best of everything that is currently in existence, and it's just so much fun as an automotive enthusiast to sort of be checking out what's going on within the car world. So without any further ado, let's go ahead and let's get into the cars. I believe there's about 28 in total, counting the Next 100 cars. We're mostly going to be talking about the real ones, the ones that were actually built, but we will mention the other ones that aren't cool, because of course there are some I'd be excited to see actually get built. So most of these cars don't have real names, but they might have like heritage with something that was in the past, or they just have some sort of basic name that was given to them, but most of them are just kind of referred to as, for example, this first one that came out in 2013 with Gran Turismo 6 is the AMG Vision Gran Turismo. So it's basically just the AMG VGT talking about the brand and then VGT. So that one they did build. That was one of the very first cars added to the game, and it was actually built in real life. So the AMG Vision Gran Turismo has a lot of talk about it, mostly because it was the car that was driven by Bruce Wayne in the Justice League movie. I haven't seen that, that's just what I know about the car. And in addition, there's Mercedes-AMG are always talking about possibly putting that car into production. So there's always that fun too, and talking about the carbon fiber body, retractable wing, all that stuff. So that would be Mercedes/AMG, sort of first really high-end car to be coming into the market. The next one is the BMW Vision GT, or to me it looks an awful lot like the 3.0 CSL race car, which would be an absolutely incredible car. I know that if BMW was ever to come out with something that was like a new version of the 3.0 CSL, I bet you it would sell like hotcakes, and I know that they could sell it for a premium. Like, it would easily be able to sell like for $150,000 to $180,000, like easily i8 range if BMW ever released like a 3.0 CSL. The next car is the Mitsubishi Concept XR PHEV. So like I said, some of them do have a bunch of like crazy names. I think some of that has to do with sort of the environmental electric aspect of that car, and so that's just kind of a crazy one that Mitsubishi came up with. The next one, and to me this is one of the crazier ones, is the Volkswagen GTI Roadster Vision GT. And that one they did build, and it is a crazy car to look at. So basically the way it's like if you took a Golf and just chopped the roof off, made it a convertible, and like cut everything just completely flat, including the glass, like, you know, Speed Racer glass style, just completely cut it flat, and then put a wing on the back of it, make it a two-seater. It is I love it, but at the same time it's just so crazy. I imagine it'd be one of the, like, you could probably sell it, but I don't think it would sell a whole lot if it was to ever go in production. But it is a real car, so that's super cool. Good job, Volkswagen. The next car is the Nissan Concept 2020, which is basically a really crazy version of the GTR. It's got like the same sort of GTR taillights, just with a lot more racy aerodynamic stuff. But if you ask me, it has a lot that it sort of shares in common with the Ital design Nissan GTR based on the R35, but if you've been sort of seeing stuff on it on the internet, a lot of people are trying to tell you it's an R36. It's not. It's just the Nissan concept car for 2020. The next car is the Aston Martin DP100, which is also a real car. So is the Nissan, by the way, but it is a real car, and they have. Now, when I say real car, I like real car with like air quotes, because some of them don't actually run, I believe. I don't even think any of them have engines. They just kind of push them around everywhere and put batteries in them. But anyways, they do build the bodies, and that's the really exciting part. This car has a lot of jokes just because of the way that the headlights are and the grille. Everyone sort of calls it the HDMI car and stuff like that because of the way some of the features are shaped, but I think it's super cool, especially for a company like Aston Martin to really push out there, because Aston Martin's a much smaller company when you compare them to some of the people that they're like in the market against, like BMW, Mercedes, sort of like that. Like, those are significantly bigger companies than Aston, and so to see Aston getting on board this train of building these crazy cars, all for fun, that were just originally to be put in a video game, is insane. So, on to the next one. The next one is the Toyota FT1 Vision concept, which was essentially like the Supra before we knew it was the Supra. We were just curious what it was, and it was FT1. But this is like a race car version. So this is essentially, if the FT1 made it to production, and then they would have modified the car to race in like GT series. That's basically what that car is. So just take it with a grain of salt and imagine what it would be like with the Supra, since they changed the body and there's a bunch of different things that have changed. And I'd say for the better. I think the Supra looks a lot better than the original FT1 concept. Next is the Subaru VIZIV, or Viziv, whatever you want to call it, Vision Gran Turismo, and that one is a very crazy car. Not real, but basically if Subaru just took the idea of what is the ultimate WRX STI and then built that. So all-wheel drive, I think it's supposed to be electric. It's just this crazy monster that if Subaru had unlimited money, that's probably how they would build it. Next car is the Chevrolet/Chaparral 2X, and this car is almost like an open wheel, but with fenders, crazy IndyCar type style race car. And this one is probably one of the craziest cars, and the best part about it is that they actually did build one. So you can actually see it during some of the different events where they unveiled the cars. This one is usually there, and it is one of the craziest cars I've ever seen, especially when you're looking at like the rear. in the front, but it is a lot of fun, and I'm glad that they decided to build it. Next one is the Infiniti Concept Vision GT, and that is also quite a crazy car. I think it's exciting because you know that Infiniti and Nissan are the same thing, so having Nissan not only build the 2020 concept, but the Infiniti concept is really exciting, and I do have to say Infiniti has been doing really well lately in terms of how the cars look, and they are gorgeous, and this one is keeping that theme. Next car is the Mazda LM55, which is an absolutely scary beast of a car. Like, the way it looks is absolutely like the stuff of, like, think of the emotion car. That one, think about how crazy just everything looks on that car, and this Mazda is exactly like that in terms of just absolutely crazy aero. It would be super cool if we could see this in a few years, like racing at something like Le Mans. Like, would love to see Mazda make a heavy comeback into motorsport like that. The Mini Club Envision GT isn't anything quite over the top, but if you decided that you had a Mini and you wanted it to be a little bit more curvy and have a little bit more oomph and look like a race car, that's essentially what you get. It has the sort of rally type package with the headlamps being in the middle of the grille as well, and sort of giving you that vintage style with having a bit of a wide body kit that makes it a little bit more aggressive stance. So it is an interesting car, so good job to Mini for doing that, but again, that one was not built. The next car is one of my favorites on this list, and that is the Alpine Vision Gran Turismo. And that's because this car is absolutely insane. It takes everything that was great about the older racing cars from the like 50s and 60s, where they were like open top and like all that great stuff, and it combines it into a modern take. And it is absolutely gorgeous. I think the front end and just the overall shape of the car, it's one of those cars that, like, you have to look at it from different angles because it's so different from every angle that it's not just like walking around your standard run-of-the-mill car. And they built this one, and this one is absolutely legendary to look at, especially when you look at the headlights. It has those different hints from cars of the past that Alpine's built, so good job. Absolutely love that one. The next car is the Lexus LF LC GT. That's basically just a race car version of the Lexus LF 500. So that car is super exciting, and then that one's pretty cool as well. The next car is the Volkswagen GTI Supersport, which is of course a different racing take on the Volkswagen GTI. That is a fun car, but again, not a real one. The next is the Peugeot Vision Gran Turismo, and that one is a lot of fun because it's something that you wouldn't expect from Peugeot, and it is an absolutely impressive car, but it's really too bad that we couldn't see that one get built. Then, one of my favorites is the SRT Tomahawk, and this one, again, SRT, as you can tell, is a Chrysler automobile. I am a huge Mopar guy, and I love this car because it shows me like different sort of heritage from concept cars we've seen from them in the past, mixed with like the heavy Viper influence, just with a crazy maximum horsepower, aerodynamics, destroy everything type of feel to it. Next car is the Hyundai N 2025 Vision Gran Turismo, and to me that car is incredibly exciting. To see something like that coming from Hyundai really gets me excited for the future. We've seen a lot of good things from Hyundai and Kia lately, and I'm really excited to see what these companies have for the future. The Bugatti Vision Gran Turismo concept is basically a Bugatti Chiron with a big wing on it. So it's a super exciting car. It's definitely impressive, especially since it is a real car, actually. They did end up building it, so that's super exciting to see that. The next car is the Fittipaldi EF7, which is actually a car that was designed by Pininfarina, which was actually meant to come into production in 2018, which I believe it did, with a 4.8 liter V8, and so that is a super exciting car because that is one of those things that I think, again, the manufacturer designed it for Gran Turismo and then got really excited about the prospect of it, or had something in the back of their mind, and then decide to go with this car. So that one is super exciting as well, and it is also a real car. Is the McLaren Ultimate VGT, which is quite the crazy car. Think about all the technology advances that we've seen from McLaren in the past, combined with their history with Formula One, and all of that, and if you combine it into one car, you get this absolutely crazy car that would be really impressive for McLaren to build. It doesn't make any sense because it probably wouldn't be street legal. It's just that sort of absurdity, but nonetheless, props to you. Is the super exciting little two-door monster Mini Cooper random car thing that is a lot of fun. quite something different to see from Daihatsu, so that is something that's super exciting to see that they're still out there wanting to design those crazy and very spunky vehicles. So good job, Daihatsu. These cars are the Peugeot L500R and 750R hybrid cars, which are, again, another thing from Peugeot that's very exciting to see that they're getting awful happy. I think Peugeot has been sort of neglecting the crazy performance cars lately, so it would be good for them to get out of their comfort zone and build something as crazy as some of these supercars that you see here. Next car on the list is the ISO Revolta, made by Zagato, who's very famous for building such cars in the past as the Zagato DB4 in the 1960s. And now they have built this insane car, which is supposed to have 997 horsepower. So it is a real car, and you can find pictures of this one on the internet if you ever decide to look it up. And it is quite the crazy car. It reminds me of a mix of some of the cars that we've seen on the list. There's like sort of like a Mazda influence mixed with like Maserati and Ferrari type of thing. It's a pretty interesting car, and 1,000 horsepower is just absolutely insane. So it's always nice to see some of these companies with the coach building heritage to come out and build something like this. The next car on the list is the Honda Sports VGT, which is like if you combined a Civic with the sort of sports car influences of an NSX, it's kind of what you get. It's like a sportier Honda Civic with NSX influences, and it's a really exciting car. Good job, Honda, for getting out there and trying to be creative with everybody else. And so that's also a cool one to see, but just not quite as crazy as some of the other cars on this list, a little bit more reasonable. Finally, the last cars are the Audi e-tron cars, which looks like, you know, almost like the crazy race cars we saw from the 80s and 90s from Audi. And it's a modern, futuristic version, which this one, some of these cars from the e-tron series do exist as Audi is pushing on towards the electric future, and these cars are super exciting, especially to see from Audi, who is dead serious about building a lot of these cars. And then the last two cars, as I mentioned earlier, was the BMW and the Rolls-Royce Next 100. These are cars that have both been built and have both been demonstrated in different ways. Neither of them has really ever driven anywhere, but you still see both of them doing little things and little stunts. There's lots of video footage you can find of those last two cars everywhere, and it's incredibly exciting. The last thing I wanted to say just about doing this video was it was something that was really exciting for me, was to be able to look up these cars and learn more about something that I honestly didn't know that much about. And so I really enjoyed getting to see these cars, and it really gives a unique insight into what's coming for the future. Another thing to remember is that these cars weren't designed by video game people for a video game. They were designed by actual car companies to be implemented in the video game. That's the most exciting thing to me, is because this is coming from the manufacturers themselves. So anything you see in these cars could definitely be referenced in the future for any of these cars that we see come out. Now, some of these cars you probably won't expect from, like Peugeot, for example, will probably never build any of these. But some of the higher end ones like McLaren, Zagato, all those, etc., when you see these cars, these are very likely to be influenced or have some resemblance to future cars that we can expect to see from those manufacturers. So if you ever want to drive these cars, you can probably go get Gran Turismo. Now, I've never played Gran Turismo. I'm more of a Forza guy myself. I'm Xbox, all that. But let me know what you think. It was super interesting doing all this research. I'm open to more ideas. Whatever you guys have, let me know, and I will definitely look into seeing if I can make a video on it. I was kind of skeptical about this one because I didn't know how much information would be out there, but I did have a lot of fun getting to look it up. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And of course, I'll see you guys next time.